Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off. We begin in the Middle East, where fighting resumed overnight. That week-long truce between Israel and Hamas came to an end after both sides failed to agree to another ceasefire extension. Earlier this morning, Israel resumed its bombing campaign in Gaza with signs it plans to expand its ground offensive farther south. This video shows the aftermath of an Israeli strike on Rafah, an area Israel had previously told Palestinians to flee to. Gaza health officials say dozens of Palestinians have been killed and injured since the truce expired. Also this morning, sirens sounding in southern Israeli communities near the border. The violence comes a day after Secretary Blinken's visit to Israel. He urged the government to do more to protect Palestinian civilians and, quote, act in accordance with international humanitarian law. But this morning, Israel's far-right national security minister called on his country to, quote, crush Gaza with all our might. Aid groups inside the besieged area have been quick to sound the alarm on the new devastation unfolding there. Take a listen to this message from a UNICEF spokesperson inside one of Gaza's last functioning hospitals as the bombing resumed.
The health system here is overwhelmed. This hospital simply cannot take more children with the wounds of war. There are children everywhere. These children are sleeping. There was a bomb literally 50 metres from here. I cannot overstate how the capacity has been reduced of hospitals in the last 7 weeks. We cannot see more children with the wounds of war, with the burns, with the shrapnel littering their body, with the broken bones. Inaction by those with influence is allowing the killing of children. This is a war on children.
In a few moments, we'll hear from NBC News military analyst Colonel Jack Jacobs. But before that, let's get to our foreign correspondent, Raf Sanchez, in Tel Aviv, joining us from a square where the families of hostages gather. So, Raf, what are we seeing now that the bombing campaign has resumed? And is it clear where Palestinians are supposed to flee to now?
Well, Joe, as you just heard, it is a desperate and deadly situation inside of Gaza this morning. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza, which is controlled by Hamas, says at least 32 people have been killed since the ceasefire broke down, since Israeli airstrikes began. And the Israeli military is today warning residents of the southern city of Khan Yunis that the entire city is a potential active combat zone. It is urging them to flee south, closer to the Egyptian border, to the area of Rafah, which is significant, Joe, because the Israeli military was at first telling people to flee from the north to Khan Yunis. Now it's telling them to get out of Khan Yunis. So you are potentially having a very significant proportion of the population of Gaza being told to flee to the absolute most southern area. Now, this is a brutal end to a truce that lasted 7 days and a couple of minutes. Both sides blaming each other for not extending the deal. But Israel says Hamas or other Palestinian militant groups inside of Gaza began firing rockets at about 6 a.m. local time. So that is about 1 hour before the ceasefire was due to begin. Israel resuming its airstrikes shortly after 7 a.m. And as we've seen during the week, there has been more aid getting into Gaza. It is a fraction of what is needed. And all of those overlying issues remain as they were. You have a healthcare system that has collapsed. You have disease, which is spreading, and a lot of concern, especially for children, as you just heard. Jeff.
So, Raf, this comes a day after Secretary Blinken warned Israel to try and minimize civilian casualties and act in accordance with international law. Is the U.S. trying to put more pressure on Israel, and how is Israel responding to that?
So we are seeing a shift in tone from the Biden administration. They are still saying that Israel's military campaign to remove Hamas is a legitimate military objective, but you are hearing much more emphasis now, as you did from Secretary of State Blinken here in Tel Aviv last night, on reducing civilian casualties inside of Gaza. He said there cannot be the kind of large-scale displacement of civilians in the south as we've seen in the north. He said also life-critical infrastructure, so that's hospital, that's water stations, that's power stations, cannot be targeted. He is saying, though, that Hamas is embedded among the civilian population, in some cases below hospitals, and ultimately they do hold Hamas responsible for this entire situation, beginning with the October 7th terrorist attack inside the south of Israel. The question now, Joe, is can the U.S. be involved in helping to try to rebuild this ceasefire, which is shattered this morning?
And the other big question, is it even possible for that to happen right now quickly, Raph? I mean, where do things stand?
So Qatar, which were the brokers of the initial ceasefire, say they are continuing mediation efforts between Israel and Hamas to try to get this truce back on track. Interestingly, the president of Israel is in Dubai today for a climate summit where he met the emir of Qatar. They shook hands. That's rare. These are two countries that don't have diplomatic relations. There is broad feeling here that there is likely to be at least a couple of days of fighting before any ceasefire can come back into effect. We did see that last group of Israeli hostages coming out of Gaza yesterday, 7 women, 1 male teenager, including for the first time 2 Palestinian citizens of Israel. So these are from the Bedouin community. These are Muslims who were themselves kidnapped by Hamas during the October 7th terror attack.
All right, Raph Sanchez from Tel Aviv. Raph, thank you so much. For more, let's bring in NBC News military analyst, Medal of Honor recipient Colonel Jack Jacobs. Colonel, always good to have you with us. So now that Israel has resumed combat against Hamas, it's also urged residents in parts of southern Gaza to evacuate. What do you see as the Israeli military's next move?
Well, it's interesting to note that the ground offensive took place principally in the north, as we know, and the attack after the ceasefire was broken is down in the south near Rafah. And that would indicate that the Israelis have intelligence, perhaps from hostages who were released, that Hamas headquarters and other facilities are located in the south. That makes it extremely difficult, of course, for everybody in the south. The Egyptians have the border closed. They don't have refugee camps, the Egyptians don't, and it's going to be extremely difficult to get any refugees out of southern Gaza into Egypt. It does also mean that it's possible that the rockets that Israel said broke the ceasefire came from southern Gaza. These are not precision-guided munitions, but instead are ballistic. That means that they follow a parabolic trajectory. Israeli radar can pick the trajectories up on 2 points on the trajectory and pinpoint exactly where the rockets came from. And it's possible that the attacks in the south were locations Israel picked up as the origin of the rockets. In any case, no matter what, Israel is continuing on the offensive, and one hopes that there will be another ceasefire. For Hamas, they're vitally interested in continuing the ceasefire as long as they can. For Netanyahu, who originally said that the sole objective was to destroy Hamas, now says that one of the principal objectives is to get hostages back, a change that's the result of pressure from both inside Israel and from the United States. We expect to see, we think we'll see another ceasefire soon, Joe.
So, Colonel, as we've been reporting, the U.S. is urging Israel to try and be more surgical to avoid civilian casualties with attacks in Gaza. With the fighting now resumed, I mean, do you think we're going to see a different approach, a more surgical approach from Israel?
Well, we haven't yet. It's extremely difficult to negotiate the areas inside Gaza to ensure that there won't be any civilian casualties, as we've seen before in all wars. The good guys have guns, the bad guys have guns. Non-combatants do not, and they're always caught in the middle. What is going to happen is that on the ground, it'll be very, very slow going as Israel attempts to minimize civilian casualties. But attacks from the air, no matter how many precision-guided munitions are used by Israel, there's going to be ancillary damage and civilians will be hurt.
So during the week-long truce, Hamas and other militants in Gaza released more than 100 hostages, most of them Israelis, in return for 240 Palestinians who were freed from prisons in Israel. But we still have more than 100 hostages remaining in Gaza. What do you think it's going to take to get to another ceasefire?
Well, it's Qatar is negotiating between the two. Israel would like to see Hamas eliminated. Hamas would like to see a ceasefire that lasts indefinitely? The answer is going to be somewhere in the middle. A guarantee by Hamas that there will not be any breaking of the ceasefire and a specific number and names of hostages who will be released on both sides will go a long way to ensuring that there might be another ceasefire. One of the reasons for the ceasefires being broken is that Israel said that the number of hostages who were released was not the same as was originally guaranteed by Hamas. If both sides agree through Qatar on exactly who is going to be released, and those are released, you'll see another ceasefire.
All right. Colonel Jack Jacobs, as always, we appreciate your expertise. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Nearly a week after the shooting of 3 Palestinian students in Vermont, we are learning more about the background of the suspect, and the mothers of 2 of the victims are speaking out. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the latest.
The suspect accused of shooting 3 Palestinian college students in Burlington, Vermont, has not been charged with a hate crime. But the mothers of 2 of the young men say they have no doubt why their sons were targeted.
If they were not wearing the keffiyeh, right, if they were not speaking Arabic, I seriously cannot understand in any logical sense why he would pull out a gun and shoot.
Elizabeth Price and Tamara Tamimi's sons, Hisham and Kenan, were shot Saturday evening, along with their friend Tassin. Kenan is out of the hospital, but rattled.
He's a bit jumpy. He's frightful.
He's traumatized.
He is.
Yeah.
He absolutely is.
Hisham is seriously wounded.
He is paralyzed, currently paralyzed from mid-torso downwards.
48-year-old Jason Eaton pleaded not guilty to 3 charges of attempted murder. In 2019, a former girlfriend told police he had a history of mental illness, according to police records reviewed by NBC News.
He was fully accountable. He had a gun, and he tried to take the lives of our sons.
Elizabeth says Hisham appreciates all the support, but worries about Palestinians at home.
He said that of the tens of thousands of people killed in Gaza, there were about 30 that have the name Hisham.
Both mothers say their sons felt the effect of toxic rhetoric on their campuses since the war began.
I think that as the Palestinian people see them as culpable and accountable.
But from their homes in the West Bank, they hoped their children were safe in the U.S.
I was and am incredibly angry that I feel like there's nowhere safe for Palestinians. I literally don't know where to go with my son.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Burlington, Vermont.
Turning to politics now, a New York appeals court has reinstated a gag order against former President Donald Trump and his legal team. This is the gag order in Trump's ongoing civil fraud trial. The 4-judge panel came to the decision after hearing arguments from both sides. Prosecutors argued the order was needed because of recent social media posts from the former president directed at the court clerk. Trump's team rebuked the claims, saying the order is unconstitutional. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now with more on all this. All right, so the decision from the panel doesn't explain their rationale, but it does mean, at least for now, the gag order stays in place as they consider Trump's full appeal of orders. So what else do they have to discuss, and how is this right now going to impact the case, which is still ongoing?
Welcome to the difference between state and federal court, Joe. And I say this with some anxiety because these are courts that I not only appear in, but I'm going to be appearing in the near future. But in New York State, you're seeing a tale of 2 gag orders. The original gag order by Justice Engoron and then the supplemental gag order were both from the bench, extemporaneous, words that came out of his mouth. Now, the appellate division, after both sides briefed the issue, they issue an order that is basically just a few lines with no reasoned opinion there. Whereas, contrast that to the federal courts, where you have lengthy opinions, explanations, briefed issues, the adversarial process at work. Because there's so little in the appellate division's order, to the extent that the Trump team can appeal this, that makes it, in my view, more susceptible to appeal. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but I've long said that Justice Engoron's gag orders, compared to the federal gag orders, are more susceptible to attack simply because they were rather broad and just sort of said from the bench without any reasoned written opinion.
So after the decision, we heard from Engoron, who told both sides he plans to enforce the gag orders rigorously and vigorously He's already fined Trump $15,000. So if he feels the gag order is violated again, what else could we see?
Yeah, that order already came. The fine is in. I don't think that's affected now. I think that in theory, Trump still has to pay it. When he will, who knows? But going forward, now he can call Trump in for violation of the gag order and punish him. And that punishment, everyone knows, can start with money. It can start with an admonishment. But punishment, contempt, sanctions, they're a spectrum, Joe. They start with warnings. The mid-range is money fines. And at the end is possible incarceration. And no judge, federal or state, wants anything to do with trying to incarcerate Trump. They know that would be a huge administrative problem.
A former president in the middle of a presidential campaign. So the trial is still ongoing. It maybe isn't making as many headlines as when Trump testified or his children. But where do things stand right now? When might it end? And then remind us how the final decision is made here.
What's interesting is that this is a rare bench trial, and it's even rarer because so many of the issues were decided on summary judgment. Summary judgment itself is very rarely granted. I mean, the standard is very high. I've probably argued dozens of them. I could count on one hand the number of times they're actually granted for either side, for or against. So going forward, this is a bench-only trial. The judge will make the decision. The upside to that is we can expect a written decision as opposed to a jury verdict, which is just yay or nay. The judge will consider all of this, and he alone makes the decision, which will almost certainly be appealed if Trump loses.
All right. Danny Savalas, as always, thank you so much. Today on Capitol Hill, lawmakers will decide the fate of controversial Congressman George Santos. The House is set to hold its third vote on a resolution to expel Santos from Congress. That vote scheduled for later today. He refuses to resign. The first two votes failed, but this time could be different. It comes after that House Ethics Committee found Santos spent thousands of dollars worth of campaign money on high-end shopping items, Botox, and the adult website OnlyFans. He's also facing a federal indictment that accuses him of stealing the identities of campaign donors. Santos has pleaded not guilty to those charges, says he has done nothing wrong. If the resolution to expel Santos passes, he will be forced to leave Congress immediately. Sporting Hollywood is mourning the loss of a high-profile social justice advocate. Police say Michael Latt was fatally shot inside his L.A. home on Monday by a woman he did not know. Now, many in Hollywood are taking to social media to reflect on his life and his legacy. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has that story.
The DA says the shocking murder of Michael Latt was a targeted crime. Authorities say the well-connected Hollywood social justice advocate was allegedly shot in the head by a homeless woman who knocked on his door, forced her way inside, and killed the 33-year-old for being friends with a woman who the suspect had been stalking.
This is a quiet neighborhood. We've never had anything go on. He's a super sweet guy.
The son of a powerful Hollywood couple and the brother of famed talent agent Franklin Latt, Michael is being remembered for his philanthropy. He founded Lead with Love, an organization promoting social justice through the arts. His mother writing, Michael devoted his career to supporting artists, championing organizations that raised up artists of color and leveraged storytelling for enduring change.
Where can you see growth and improvement?
The tragedy reverberating across Hollywood. America Ferrera posting, what an incredible loss for his family, friends, and the many communities he was a vital and beloved member of. Actor Jesse Williams saying, Michael was a shining beacon of selfless kindness.
The suspect, who lived in her car near Latt's home, is being held on $3 million bail. Investigators have not yet said how she obtained a handgun.
A shocking and senseless Hollywood murder that's claimed the life of a man devoted to helping others. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
A star linebacker for the Buffalo Bills is out on bond this morning after turning himself in to Dallas police. Von Miller, a former Super Bowl MVP, is accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett has the details.
The two-time Super Bowl champion Von Miller facing assault charges against a pregnant woman. Police say that's a third-degree felony after calls came in for a major disturbance on Wednesday morning. And over the next 36 hours, Miller did not turn himself into police until Thursday evening, we're told. NBC affiliate reporting that he is now free on bond. But when the call came into police, Miller had originally left the home before police arrived. Now, we obtained a copy of the arrest warrant affidavit, which detailed what the woman, his girlfriend, as we understand it, detailed to police about how a verbal argument devolved into a physical altercation where Miller allegedly put his hands around her neck multiple times, as well as yanked her hair to the extent of pulling out a chunk of her hair from her head. And so clearly a very violent description. Police say that they observed bruising consistent with this description and were looking for Miller for that period of time after the fact. Now that he has turned himself in, there still is repercussions from the NFL he'll likely face because domestic violence is a violation of the NFL personal conduct policy. And as that investigation is ongoing, players are ineligible to play if they have that accusation. This is not the first time Miller has faced this. He actually was accused of domestic violence back in 2021, but was not charged at the time. Now, we reached out to Miller, his attorney, and his agents, but have not received any comment at this time. Meanwhile, the NFL and the Buffalo Bills, his team, said that they're aware of the incident and they are investigating further. Back to you.
Thanks to Maura Barrett for that report. The alleged victim has since spoken to a local news outlet through text messages, describing the incident as, quote, a huge misunderstanding. We're fine, she wrote. Things were blown way out of context. This is actually outrageous. No one assaulted anyone. We'll make sure to keep you updated on this story. It is a soggy start to December with showers across the country. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is here with the forecast. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Happy Friday. And yeah, feeling like December too, because we're looking at lots of snow in some spots. We'll start out west because we have atmospheric rivers moving on shore. We're going to see that a couple times over the weekend. The strongest one on Sunday. So we could see up to 6, even 10 inches of rain locally along the coast. We're going to see a whole lot of snow too. Feet of snow in the Cascades. In the Four Corners, seeing a little leftover showers, even some wintry weather too in the higher elevations, the mountain snow. But it's off to the east. We were watching that storm system yesterday that brought severe weather to portions of Texas. We're looking at that moving off to the north and the east and seeing some storms now along the Gulf Coast. This will be the concern as we go throughout the day. I don't think it's going to have the severity it had yesterday, but still could see some strong storms with gusty winds and also the chance for a tornado or two. Otherwise, this is moving to the north and east. It will develop into the northeast and also mid-Atlantic, where we're going to see some heavy rain, especially where you see those brighter colors. So here's the setup, that area of low pressure, showers moving into the northeast, also New England, and then we're going to see those scattered storms for the Gulf Coast. That's going to happen once again tomorrow. So we could see some rain along the coast in the upwards of 5 inches or more, showering, lingering across the mid-Atlantic. And then guess what? On Sunday, we're going to see more rain into the northeast. So it's going to be a soggy weekend in that part of the country. As far as the severe threat, we're looking at where the green shading is. So Lafayette to Hattiesburg, New Orleans, also Mobile to Panama City, looking at winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. The hail threat is low, but we could see some hail and also some really heavy rainfall in addition to some tornadoes. Same story tomorrow, doesn't move all that far. We're looking at the same scenario from Montgomery, Enterprise, down to Mobile once again for the chance for strong storms and a whole lot of rain along the coast too. Again, could see 5 inches. That's where you're seeing the reds, the oranges, also the yellows. That rain is going to lead to the chance for some localized flash flooding because in addition to that, we're going to see rainfall rates of 2 inches per hour. Otherwise, we're looking at that blanket of snow into the Intermountain West, parts of the Rockies, Pacific Northwest. We're quiet through the middle of the country today. That will change as we head towards the later part of the weekend. But storm alerts stretching from the Pacific Northwest into the Intermountain West, the Southwest as well. We have winter storm warnings. We have winter storm watches, winter weather advisories, and even some flood watches because we're looking at a lot of rain falling over the next several days along the Pacific North Coast. We're looking at California, also Oregon, Washington, where we could see up to 10 inches of rain in some spots. That's where you're looking those reds and also the oranges. That's a lot of rain for that area over the next several days. And in terms of the snowfall, we're looking at a lot of snow too. Talking feet in the Cascades and down through the Rockies, also portions of the Southwest. We're looking at lots of snow as well.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's a lot of rain.
It's a lot of rain.
Even for the Pacific Northwest.
6 to 10 inches.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.